I now recognize Cyprus, the delegate from Capital, speaking on behalf of Cyprus, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates. Cyprus, you have the floor.
Mr. Co-Chairs, first of all, I would like to inform you that I will deliver this statement on behalf of Cyprus, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates. Our statement will touch upon all issues to be discussed at this session, since we consider them interlinked. Our Troika would like to thank the UN team for the very comprehensive and thorough TSD issues brief. All themes of this session are fundamentally linked and interrelated. If we successfully manage to meet the sustainability challenge for our cities and human settlements, we can tackle at the same time multiple other pressing challenges we are facing today. No city can achieve sustainability, enjoy inclusive and sustained economic growth, and have an economically productive, healthy, and robust society without having in place policies that promote sustainable transport, sustainable patterns of consumption and production, resilience of its citizens to face natural disasters and climate change, and a sound management of chemicals and waste. Affordable and sustainable transport, including non-motorized mobility, the promotion, protection, and restoration of safe and green urban spaces, the implementation of green infrastructure policies, the provision of safe and clean drinking water, sanitation, and healthy air quality are vital requirements for human well-being and for the protection of biodiversity and natural resources. This is particularly true for cities that remain, as noted in the TSD brief, large-scale consumers of water, energy, and natural and processed products, as well as generators of greenhouse gas emissions and waste. It is essential, however, that policies should be implemented that reduce the movement of rural populations to cities by providing jobs and adequate standard of living in the rural areas, thus making the problems of large cities easier to be handled. Chemicals and sustainable management of waste through the 3 Rs are critical, and so are disaster risk reduction, resilience, and climate risks considerations in urban planning. The important role of municipal and local authorities in the transformational process should also be pointed out, as well as the importance in this respect of natural and cultural heritage and of sustainable tourism. Mr. Co-Chairs, climate change and disaster risk are rightly mentioned in the TSD brief, are fundamental threats to sustainable development and the eradication of poverty. They are both cross-cutting issues and should be maintained in all policies and sectors. Special links can be seen in relation to the sustainable cities and the risks that coastal cities are under due to climate change and sea level rise. Within the UNFCCC framework, we look forward to adopting a new climate agreement in 2015 in Paris and hope that United Nations Secretary General's Climate Summit in September 2014 will give the appropriate political impetus for that. Disaster risk reduction and the building of resilience to disasters should be given appropriate consideration in the post-2015 development agenda. However, there should be a complementary and coherent approach to the relationship between the post-2015 framework for disaster risk reduction and the post-2015 development agenda. The Rio +20 conference recognized that sustainable production and consumption is a prerequisite for sustainable development and should be approached in a holistic way. It is about implementation of a new development paradigm in our daily lives and activities, and about putting theory into practice. SCP is all about improving the quality of life and well-being of people without increasing environmental degradation, not compromising the opportunities of future generations. It is therefore essential to decouple economic growth and environmental degradation in terms of exploitation of resources and pollution, apply life cycle thinking to minimize the social and environmental impacts from all stages of the production and consumption process, and guard against the rebound effect where efficiency gains are cancelled by resulting increases in consumption. Sustainable consumption production needs to be mainstreamed in all policies, which need to be supported by regulatory, economic, communicative, and voluntary instruments. In this regard, we welcome the establishment of the board of the 10-year Framework Programme of Action and hope that the 10-year Framework Programme will help countries integrate SCP partners in all sectors, plans and programs of their economies. In short, Mr. Co-Chairs, there is a clear indication that the Sustainable Development Goal on sustainable cities and human settlements is practical and implementable with possible targets such as slum reduction, governance, water and sanitation, energy, transportation, chemicals, disaster risk reduction, and sustainable consumption production. This is why our partner Singapore, which is a city-state, is co-organizing a side event on the 7th of January with China to showcase their flagship bilateral project, the Singapore-Tianjin Eco-City, which is a model of sustainable urban development. Mr. Co-Chairs, at the 7th session of the Open Working Group, our vision begins to get flesh and bones, and goals and targets will soon start to get form and shape. We are entering soon in the second and final phase of our work, which is to put in paper our recommendations to the General Assembly. We would like at this stage to join others in asking not to lose focus from our mission, which is to develop global sustainable development goals, and to submit a report to the General Assembly containing a proposal for sustainable development goals for consideration and appropriate action. Finally, our Troika would like to express its full support to the co-chairs and its readiness to cooperate with them, as well as with all member states and other stakeholders, in order to reach on time a successful final conclusion of our work. Thank you, Chairman.
I thank the delegate from capital of Cyprus, speaking on behalf of Cyprus, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates.